Edinburgh, capital city of Scotland. In its busy streets, people go about their daily lives, their eyes looking ahead or down, but seldom up. They move through the city, their minds focused on its shops and offices. But above their heads, sometimes far above, is a part of the city not seen by those who never look up. It is a place inhabited by people of stone and creatures of legend. Between street level and rooftop, these buildings are decorated with fine examples of the stonemason's craft and the sculptor's art. Some are details, designed to ornament and embellish what would otherwise be bare walls. Others are major works of sculpture, placed here to impress the onlooker with the wealth and the cultural credentials of the owners of the buildings. Here in Princes Street, just below the castle, is the Royal Scottish Academy, the city's best-known art gallery. Built between 1822 and 1836, its north-facing pediment was crowned in 1844 by this seated statue of Queen Victoria by John Steele, her robes draped so as to give a general idea of Britannia. The pediment is carved with classical motifs. Pity about the wire netting, but Edinburgh pigeons haven't yet learned to respect works of art. On the walls are these wreaths and other fine carvings, and the roof is home to these sphinxes. To the east of the Academy, we come to one of Edinburgh's best-known landmarks, the Scott Monument, a building that positively bristles with finely carved stonework. Scott died in 1832, and funds were raised for this Gothic monument, designed by George Meikle Kemp and built by David Lind between 1840 and 1846. There are 64 statuettes in the niches around the monument, representing various characters in Scott's novels, as well as 16 Scottish poets. There are also minor pieces of a purely decorative nature. This statue of Sir Walter, with his deerhound Maida at his side, another designed by John Steele, was placed here after completion of the monument in 1846. Moving north onto Queen Street, we come to the National Portrait Gallery, built between 1885 and 1890 of red sandstone from quarries in Dumfriesshire. Its walls are copiously decorated with statues depicting figures from Scottish history. On its east-facing side is this trio of Queen Mary, flanked by Bishop Leslie and Maitland of Lethington. Public buildings like these were, of course, designed to celebrate art and literature, so it's perhaps not surprising that they should be decorated with works intended to make us look up. But the same passion for decoration is evident in commercial buildings from the 18th and 19th centuries. In particular, banks and insurance companies also wanted us to look up at their buildings. This George Street building dates from 1847 and was originally the headquarters of the commercial bank. Designed by the architect David Rind, the style is Greco-Roman and the building is fronted with fine fluted columns and Corinthian capitals. The pediment above sports this array of high relief statues carved by A. Handyside Ritchie. The central figure denotes Caledonia, who is flanked by prudence, agriculture, commerce, enterprise, mechanical science and learning. At the same time as the Commercial Bank was constructing its impressive office, along here at St Andrew's Square, the British Linen Bank was working on this remarkable edifice, once described as being like a fragment of ancient Rome. The columns on the frontage are again of Corinthian design, and the capitals are richly decorated. The architect here was David Bryce, and the statues on the parapet were again carved by A. Handyside Ritchie to represent similar themes, in this case navigation, commerce, manufacture, science, art and agriculture. Looking at these buildings, it seems clear that their designers and constructors intended to impress upon us their wealth, power and sense of cultural worth. And in these times, if you wanted to impress, you had to do it in stone. In 1892, the Prudential Assurance Company wanted to build their new office here in St Andrew's Square in the red brick typical of their English branches. They were given a flat no. If you want to build here, you must build in stone. They were allowed red stone. Stone was a material readily available from quarries around the city and from further afield, and there were architects, designers, sculptors and masons well skilled in its use. Masons would cut and place the stones to build the walls. Others, with finer skills, would carve details such as these borders with their rectangular blocks. The more skilled would carve the capitals and motifs in the friezes, as well as figures like these cherubs. And the artist sculptors would create the statues. It was through the use of stone as a material and the skills and artistry of these craftsmen that the owners of the building were able to create in us the impression they wanted. One of the most striking examples of this outlook is perhaps the Jenners Building, a well-known Edinburgh landmark. Originally established in 1837 as Kennington and Jenner, in 1863 Kennington died, and Charles Jenner continued and developed the business, growing its national and international reputation. Sadly, on the night of November 26, 1892, alarm was given of a mighty fire in Princes Street. Jenner's was burnt out at a loss of £250,000. When it came to rebuilding, Charles Jenner wanted the business rehoused in a manner worthy of the company's reputation and its position in one of the world's finest streets, so it had to be built and well decorated in stone. On Monday, May 6, 1895, a striking new building was formally opened and immediately took its place as one of the finest of its kind in the city. Its walls are festooned with ornamental stonework, and its numerous statues look down silently on the bustling traffic in the streets below. The carving over the main entrance declares the company's establishment in 1837, to remind you that you are entering a store with a long and impressive history. Just above, Balconies at the first floor windows are richly carved, and these bow fronts are decorated with coats of arms. And similar patterns are repeated in the floors above. In the angle bay of the tower are skillfully carved and pleasingly draped female figures in national costume representing Scotland and England. In the bays fronting Princes Street are similar statues representing Ireland and France. And on the St. David Street side, the figures are meant to be typical of America and Germany. This splayed corner was borrowed from the Bodleian Library in Oxford and rises skyward to an octagon with flying buttresses, and is in itself a most impressively carved and decorated structure. And just for good measure, to the west of the octagon are these windows fronted by sumptuous balconies and flanked by caryatids that would not look out of place in ancient Greece or Rome. And finally, looking down on it all from the roof above, are these dragon-like creatures. Charles Jenner wanted his newly rebuilt store to impress his customers, be they the citizens of Edinburgh or from farther afield. He certainly succeeded. The Jenner's building has been aptly described as a wondrous compilation in pink stone. It is probably the richest example of decorative stonework anywhere in the city. Up here, there are fine pieces of stonework you could spend all day admiring. Maybe there are similar examples of decorative stonework in a town near you. But you will only be able to see them if you look up.